Good afternoon. My name is Pastor Drew Anderson. I'm here as a pastor of Legacy Christian Center, a Democrat, and a huge advocate for what we're doing. First of all, let me say this. In 1865, a group of powerful legislators came together to do something that a lot of people didn't want to see done, and that was end slavery. In 1865, it was an unpopular decision for a lot of legislators to get together to end a system that was as American as apple pie. But here we are in 2022, and we're asking a group of legislators once again to make an unpopular decision, which is to end educational slavery. I'm standing here today as a black man and as a black pastor that pastors a church in South Phoenix that time after time after time, I've seen the educational system fail the black and brown community. I'm grateful to everybody who understands the importance of education in the African American community. We speak often about ending systems, and we speak often about funding, but we never understand that there was a time in America where the black skin was considered funds. There were slave owners that didn't want to let go of their slaves because at that time they were financially into those black bodies. Well, here we are in 2022, and we have school districts that don't want to let those black bodies go because there's money attached to those black bodies. Nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room, and the elephant in the room is we have school districts that sit and complain about losing funding while all these black and brown kids are going to jail and going to prison. Nobody complains about public funds going to private prisons to incarcerate black souls, but everybody wants to complain about public funds going to educate black minds. Why is it that it's okay for public dollars to go to private prisons, but it's not okay for public dollars to go to private schools? We're in a situation right now where we're in a crisis, not COVID. We're in a crisis where we have a humanitarian issue where we are seeing black and brown kids fall behind academically. And every year we're having school districts tell those black and brown kids, we're working on it. Well, how long do we sit back and keep working on it while the prisons in Florence and the prisons in Yuma are being filled to capacity? It costs $31,000 a year to incarcerate a black mind. It costs $15,000 a year to educate a black mind. Where is our money best spent? It's best spent in educating black minds. We're not here today to abolish and say get away from public schools, but we need a lifeline in the black community right now to say this isn't working. Let's at least give another opportunity a shot. I'm asking for everybody here today to vote to end educational slavery, because in 1864, we were chained to plantations, but in 2022, we're chained to failing schools. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you. Pastor Drew, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Have you seen ESAs, this particular program, help African American and Hispanic children in poor neighborhoods?
Absolutely. In 1992, there was a black kid in the south side of Chicago that for his 13th birthday, his uncle gave him an ounce of crack cocaine and said, "Happy birthday." That black kid took that crack cocaine and started selling it at the age of 13. At 15, that kid fell in love with football, and he was afforded an opportunity to go to one of the best schools in the state of Illinois, which was Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel, we won 4 state football championships, and I was given an opportunity to walk away from selling crack cocaine and have an opportunity to go to the best school in Chicago. That school has produced more millionaires than any school in the state of Illinois. I'm not here because of what I've heard. I'm here because of what ESA did for me. My mother worked 3 jobs to take care of me and my 2 siblings. And I graduated college in 2000. My mother hasn't worked in 22 years because I graduated from high school. I went off to college, graduated from college, made it to the NFL, and my mother hasn't worked in 22 years because I've been able to financially take care of my mother because I was given a scholarship to go to a school that cost $22,000 a year when my mother drove a $1,500 Buick. There was no way without ESA that I would have made it. I had 5 friends growing up. Before I graduated high school, 3 were in prison and 2 were dead. When people ask me all the time, Pastor Drew, what was the difference between you and your friends? I immediately say the difference between me and my friends was that I had an opportunity to get out of the south side of Chicago and go see some different things and be around different kids. I've seen time and time again in South Phoenix, kids have an opportunity to go to a Brophy, to go to a St. Mary's, or to go to Xavier, and these kids flourish. We talk all the time about funds, and we talk all the time about test scores. You know what we really need to talk about? These private schools that are offering our black and brown kids a 98% graduation rate and a 90% continuation rate. I'm not worried about an AZ merit score. To hell with that. What I'm worried about is if I send my kid to Brophy, 98% of those kids that walk through those doors are graduating. If I send my kid to Brophy, 90% of those kids are going to college. Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Senator Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make a comment first that, the decorum is that we don't applaud. But I totally understand because I had to hold myself back from preach a brother. Your testimony is fantastic, and I think you are the perfect example of why we need to do this. And I've got a book which I've shared with you, Crazy Like a Fox, and it's about a guy that went into one of the poorest areas of Oakland, and he turned that school around because of his mindset. And kids like you were able to come out and succeed. This is why I think the chairman is doing this. This is why I support it. It's about the kids. And we want to have more stories like yours of kids that get pulled out of that poverty and get released through the education system into success and not into prison. So thank you for taking the time and all the work you've done on serving the kids in South Phoenix.
Amen.
Thank you. Members, any questions?
I have a question.
Senator Toffley.
For the sponsor, actually. Based on, I want to say thank you. I'm sorry. I don't mean to not greet you and acknowledge you. Thank you very much. You're very passionate. I was ready to vote yes too, but I'm sorry. I can't do that at the moment. I still have plenty of questions here. So, sorry, Chair. I apologize.
That's fine.
I do want to ask, as far as accountability for these schools, right now I know, and thank you for acknowledging it also, is the Arizona Merit. I know that many of our public schools are bogged down with various types of tests. Many, and I know that it's just one test after another, then there's teach and reteach, and it's constantly an unending cycle. So if we're talking about private schools, then what type of controls or accountability would be in place as far as the academic progress of these students that are utilizing the ESAs?
Yeah, thank you, Senator Toffley. In fact, Mr. Anderson actually brought that up. He said that in these private schools, 98% are graduating high school. I wish any of our district or charter schools could have those numbers, and 90% are going on and graduating from college. Now, there's some debate on the efficacy of state standardized testing. I'll give you an example. My students took the AZ Merit when I taught 10th grade a few years ago, and some of you, I've shared this, so forgive me, you'll hear it again, but they said one of the prompts, the writing prompts for the essay portion, was to find happiness for a teen magazine. And they didn't know what to do with that. Since then, we've moved away from the AZ Merit to the menu of assessments, which was a bill I was happy to sponsor. So now, based on federal regulations and ESSA, the long and the short of it is now on the menu is the ACT and the SAT. I'd like to see the PISA test if we're going to do it, or I'd like to see the classical learning test. Those aren't options for different reasons. So I think, back to Pastor Anderson's point, is the accountability is what are they doing, not just on a one-time snapshot test, but what are they doing on graduation, and what are they doing upon college retention? And Pastor Anderson, if you have anything to answer or elaborate on that, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well.
Absolutely. Currently, right now, we're looking at a situation where a lot of inner city kids are given an opportunity to go to what's called HBCUs, which are historically black colleges. These historically black colleges have noticed, and they just placed an article in the New York Times 2 weeks ago that noticed the graduation rate of the historically black black college students are higher when the kids are coming from private schools. So in the black community, there's a huge push for children to go to private schools right now because, one, they are getting more hands-on toolage as far as education. Two, they're given an opportunity to go to a safer school environment. Many times we talk about graduation rates, but nobody talks about the fact that a lot of these kids that are trapped in poverty, at 6:15 this morning, it was pitch black in South Phoenix. I watched 8 little kids walk to school in pitch black and have to walk in danger of being kidnapped, raped, or mugged because they're trapped in a bad neighborhood. So when I think about graduation rates and when I think about all this put together, I'm so grateful for this act that we've put together. We put this together. It's called the Arizona Equal Opportunity Act. The Arizona Equal Opportunity Act is giving people like myself an opportunity to go to a school that has a high graduation rate. If you're going to a school where 98% of the people that are graduating, there's no other proof, there's no other test that you could give anybody to say if the school is succeeding. If 10 kids are walking into school and 9.8 of them are graduating, that looks like a performing school to me. If 10 kids are walking into a school and 9 out of 10 of them are going to college, that looks like a performing school to me. We're so worried about the AZ merit and all these state standardized testing for these private schools. But what we really need to be asking, where our tax dollars are going, is what is happening with these kids? Because if a kid does great on the AZ merit test, but he don't graduate, is that a sign that that's a great school? Hell no, the kid didn't graduate. So are we more concerned about kids graduating, or are we more concerned about test scoring these kids? I'm more concerned about these kids graduating, because in the black and the brown community, if you get a quality education, you will get a good job. I've never seen the news and watch the news and it says Harvard graduates rob Circle K, details at 6. That's not what you see. But what you do see is South Mountain High School dropout mugs lady, details at 6. So instead of worrying about test scores, why don't we worry about what really matters, which is graduation rates and continuation rates? If black and brown kids are going to college, that means that they're not going to penitentiaries. I'm more concerned with seeing more black and brown kids going to Penn State than going to state pens.
Thank you. Pastor Anderson, I've heard you say this before, and I've also heard H.K. Matthews mention this before, that this issue before us, this issue of school choice, is the civil rights issue of our day.
Oh my.
Could you expound on that?
There's nothing more important to humanity right now than school choice. Like I said earlier, there are so many black and brown kids that are chained to failing schools because they don't have the finances to go to a different school. Yes, we have open enrollment in Arizona, but how are we going to get these kids to North Scottsdale? How are we going to get them to Chandler? Well, this ESA bill will give the parents the money to hire private transportation if they need to. These black kids that are sitting in my district, a lot of people don't understand this, but I sat in a McDonald's and saw 15 kids sitting in a McDonald's, 15 black and brown kids sitting in a McDonald's on Central and Southern, because they didn't have the internet at home, so they sat in there to use the free internet so that they could get their work done in the middle of the pandemic. These minds are falling behind. If we do not do something, we're going to have a generation of black and brown kids that are going to be out there committing crimes, you guys. What I don't understand for the life of me is how we are not concerned about the humanities, the problems that goes on in the black and the brown community, maybe because it doesn't affect us. But the first time you go to an ATM machine and some black or brown kid robs you because he's trying to help pay his mother's bills, maybe then you'll care about getting these kids properly educated. I'm praying that this bill and that school choice is given to more of these minority children, because this right now is the civil rights movement of my era. I fight for this every day. And as a Democrat, I've went all over this country talking to other people about the importance of this bill and how the Democratic Party needs to get on board with this. God bless Senator Bush in Florida, one of the state senators in Florida, who's a Democrat that supports this bill. There's another senator in Florida, another Hispanic lady in Florida that supports school choice, because they see this as a civil rights movement. White kids in North Scottsdale, they don't have the problems that my kids do. that's why this is such a huge problem. I'm not asking for you guys to walk away from public schools. But what I am asking for you guys to do is to just let the parents pick what school is best for their kids. There was a time in America where white people didn't let black people learn. There was a time in America where we were locked down and not given an opportunity to read a book. Now we're in a position where we know where the books are at, we know where the good education is at, and we want to get to it, but we're being chained to schools by school districts, and we're tired of it. I'm praying that this humanitarian act, this Arizona Equal Opportunity Act, that it passes the Senate, passes the House of Representatives, and our great governor, Governor Doug Ducey, will sign it, and we will finally be able to help so many low-income children get properly educated instead of properly incarcerated.
Thank you. Senator Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just one final comment. One, I appreciate all the work, because this has been a labor that you've been involved with for a while. But then also we've got the Black Mothers Forum. We've got the micro schools. You know, there's so much stuff that is being basically mixed to get kids out from the black community itself. So, you know, it's just one, kudos for all the work you're doing, all the work they're doing. I think I'm going to look forward to seeing a bunch of lives change because of all the things that you're doing.
Thank you. God bless you guys.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up.